Good afternoon to each of you. We are now ready to convene with our special school board meeting, 3:30 here at the Putnam County School District. At this time, we're going to ask Mrs. Holly Pickens if you will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I will do the invocation. Let us stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Father, it's in the name of your Son Jesus that we have gathered here this afternoon, Father, asking for your divine guidance, that our hearts and our minds, God, would be focused on the business at hand. God, we pray for clarity. We pray, God, for understanding, that our hearts and minds, God, will be fixed on the purpose for which we have assembled. Bless those, God, that have come to share, to question, or whatever the case might be. God, we just claim this afternoon what Romans 8:28 states, that all things will work together for the good of our children, for the good of this community. We ask all this in the matchless name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, at this time, we will get ready for our public comments. Just want to remind you, when you come to the speaker, if you will state your name, your address, and you will have 3 minutes to share whatever it is, your question, your comments. We're going to ask that you direct those to the board chair. All right. At this time, we're going to call Mr. Reed Matthews.
All right, give me just a second. So Reed Matthews, 111 East Groveland Lane, East Palatka. Had some questions. If Ajax would have presented first, they might have answered some of them, but since it's public comment, I'll just go ahead and kind of start asking. And there again, I know I'm not supposed to be questioning and answering, but if we could, it'd be beneficial for everybody, I think. So my first question is does Ajax, the GMP, does it include the A&E fees, the reimbursement for civil survey, fixtures, furniture, equipment, and stuff like the Osley one did? Can anybody answer that? Or
No, when you all come up, if you
okay, so that's one of my.
will, and if you will make sure that those
Okay.
are addressed when they come up to make their presentation.
Okay, so that's-
We'll take care of it.
Yes, man, that's question number one. Because obviously, I think these schools are within 1% size-wise of each other, but the price-wise is substantially higher, unless all those things are included in this GMP. That's question number one. Question number two is the contingency on Ajax. They get a 20%. They get to receive 20% of the savings on top of their percentage on the GMP. So, on the contingency, the $2 million plus contingency, that's just there kind of built in for contingencies, correct? So, are they getting, say we don't use our contingency, are they also going to get 20% of that, another $400 plus $1,000? That's one of my other questions there. Let's see here. So this appears the school is going to be substantially more for about the same size. They didn't have to demo a school. They didn't have the wetlands to work around, or as many wetlands, I don't think. That's one of my questions there. I think we still don't have zoning approval for this yet. We kind of got caught with our pants down, in my opinion, on the Palatka A school. So I don't know why we would vote on a GMP when we still don't have the zoning approval for this, unless we do that I'm not aware of. That's another one of my questions there. Let's see here. Like I said, on the zoning approval part, why risk signing a $70 million GMP without it? What's the good of, why not just push it back another month? Why would we put ourselves at that risk? I understand it's probably a slam dunk, but nothing's set in stone, nothing's in writing yet. So why would we subject ourselves to that liability, in my opinion? Those are really the main ones. Like I said, once they do their presentation, they might answer some of my questions. I might have more, but obviously this is on my own one time to speak. So I would just urge you to, make sure you do their due diligence, compare the two GMPs. They're about the same size school, I believe. Like I said, within 1,000 square feet, I believe. And big thing there too is that contingency, that 20%. if they're getting 20% of any savings that they give you on top of the GMP and they're built in contingencies, they're getting 20% of that back, potentially the way that I read the contract, the way that I read the GMP, unless there's something in black and white that states otherwise. And that's really most of it for right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we're gonna turn it over to Mr. Boland. Did we get any more? Did we get any more public comments? If not, Mr. Boland, and if you will, as you call your people up, just for me and for the others here on the board, just give us their name and the company they represent, and we'll go on through that, and let us make sure that we take care of the questions that Mr. Matthews raised.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. What we're bringing before you today are two GMPs. One is a partial GMP for Crescent City Junior Senior High School. It'll be brought up by Parish McCall. I believe Bryce Hartley will be presenting, if I'm not mistaken. But we have several members from Parish McCall here. The reason it's a partial is because they have some work to do. They're still working on the overall GMP, but there's some time-sensitive work that needs to happen this summer. They have to get ahead of some long-term procurement issues or equipment. There's some site work, some portables, there's a PE field, fencing, several other things that really have to be done this summer. And they'll go through all of that when they come up to present. The scope of that project is a lot smaller, just based on the amount of work that they're doing. So we don't expect it to drag on. That's why we included that GMP, because typically we do these separately so you can take a really deep dive. But we think that one will go a little bit quicker, but you just never know. They kind of take on a life of their own, and it depends on the questions that you have. The other GMP is the Crescent City Elementary GMP that was referred to earlier. It will be a complete GMP, and all the information there is available. Both gentlemen will come up. That will be brought to you by Ajax. I think Mr. James Marini will be presenting on that one. And again, this is for you to take a very, very deep dive. We're not glossing over anything. They may present from 30,000 feet initially, but it's at the board's discretion to stop them and tell them to go deeper, explain it, back up, tease out any questions that you want answered. This is the opportunity for that. No other business is coming before you today. And I think it was already alluded to, the amount of money is substantial. So you need to have a complete understanding of exactly what's going on. So this meeting is dedicated specifically for that purpose. I won't be presenting their information. It's their GMPs. So I'm going to let them come up and get started because it may take a while. So first up is Bryce Hartley from Parish McCall. As soon as you are satisfied, Madam Chair, you can just call up Mr. Marini from Ajax.
All righty. Thank you.
Don't we have to vote on it? Individually, right? Vote on the GMPs individually.
I assume that they're gonna, are they being asked to accept the GMPs today?
That's, yeah, we're needing approval today on both.
You're gonna wanna have a vote on them individually?
Yes.
So the pleasure of the board will be to hear the first one, make a vote, or to hear both, and then vote first one, and then vote second one? Or do you want to vote immediately after the presentation?
Probably.
I mean, with
My feeling
your
is
question
we
and comments.
Vote after.
After each, okay, all righty.
I would too.
And that way, fresh.
It's fresh in your mind.
Yes.
You remember.
All righty,
My thoughts were too, but whatever y'all want to do.
okay. All righty, thank you.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Bill Pearson. I'm president of Parish McCall Constructors, and this is Bryce Hartley. He's our senior project manager assigned for the project, and we're pleased to be here this afternoon to present an early release GMP for the school board's review and approval. As Thomas mentioned, we're diligently back at our office working on compiling the overall project GMP. Due to the size and the scope of the demolition of buildings, the phasing that's going to be required, and all the logistics that's going to be necessary to successfully pull off this construction while the school remains open, it's probably going to take us 2, maybe 3 more weeks to put the overall project GMP together and come back to you and present that for approval. But in the interest of trying to get some work approved this summer, because there are some activities that would benefit the school and our construction team to get those activities completed this summer before students come back in August, we felt that an early release GMP would be beneficial. So that's what we're going to go through, and we're going to hit on some of the highlights. The next slide, I mean, and we have physical copies, but it looks like you guys have physical copies as well. So this initial GMP is in the range of $1.9 million. We are excited to get going out there. And the three main components that we've kind of broken the GMP down to is the initial construction activities of what has to happen this summer. There's some long lead procurement items. Most everybody, I think, knows in the construction industry, mechanical and electrical components really require some long lead times right now. And these are components that we'll need for the full project, but we need to get approval now so that we can start some of those procurement items. And then there's also an existing easement on site that Florida Power and Light has, and we need to relocate that electrical power to a different area around the site because the easement currently is located under the footprint of one of the first buildings that we're going to build. So at this point, Bryce is going to go through a few more details about each of these components.
All right, like we said, we're going to get out there this summer and actually relocate. There's one portable on site that we'll be relocating, and I'll show you a map here in a second. And then there's two other portables that we'll be bringing in off site. This will house some of the classrooms that are in phase one. Again, this is just part of getting that phase one easement area out of the way. So once we do get that work going, we'll be able to start. And within this includes the removal or the relocation of the portables, the setup, the ramps, some fencing around to get this safe, and then any temporary sidewalks or pathways that are needed. We've met with the principal, Adams, and Travis Woods already with these locations. As you can see on our map right here, we've located those up on the north side of the page, and we got two next to each other and then one off to the side. These would still be all in in a safe fenced in area as part of the school. This was the best area to put these and to not have to move these multiple times. This is a one-time deal that we've moved those, and those would stay there in house for as needed throughout the construction, since this is an occupied campus as we're working through the construction.
And included in this GMP, we've got electrical power services for those portables. The school board is going to provide the low voltage fire alarm, intercom, those type of services, but the portables will be fully operational before the students come back in August.
All right, and then also included, trying to utilize some of the an available space on site. The principal in Building 1 has deemed a location that we can relocate their weight room. Obviously, this is nice because we don't have to bring in any additional portable. Next, I'll show you on a site logistic plan here in a second, but the existing PE field that is there will be on the footprint of the new gymnasium. So we want to work on trying to relocate that. And the best place that we've all determined is this is over on the far, was it the east or south side of the campus. We'll be removing some of these PE areas to make this practice field for whatever PE events that they have. And then this would have come along with relocating any of the sports that were there onto an existing surface that they already have on campus. And then, there's also some irrigation that's included in irrigating just this field right here.
One other item that's going to be done this summer is also it's perpendicular, but in the same area where the Florida Power and Light easement runs through the parking lot towards the football fields. There's also a sanitary force main that crosses underneath where the new CTE building will go. So we need to relocate that sanitary line out from underneath the footprint and again have that operational before students return. Sir?
Are you going to be replacing any of the grass fields? I mean, or tearing them up and having to do something with them?
We're going to do as Bryce mentioned, where the new PE field is going, we're going to tear out 2 basketball courts and a racquetball court and a couple of trees adjacent to the softball field. And that will be a new field with new sod, seed. And,
Put turf grass in there, the athletic turf grass?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and as you see on this overall site logistic plan over there on the far left-hand side, that would be the new PE location. It includes a new fence to secure the campus. So once that's complete, that would become part of the campus. We have proposed a couple different routes, and obviously some things that we can figure out with the principal and Travis when we do hit the ground is just routes around the campus, because this phase kind of still has all the kids in the main core of the existing campus, but we'll be working our way that way. And our ultimate plan, as you can see here in all the red lines, is that we're building up our perimeter, doing that while no students are here during the summer. And so by the time the students get back, there won't be any temporary fence going on. This will be all established up front. And from day one, when the kids get there, it'll be a safe campus.
Are the tennis courts, are they staying next to that field?
The tennis courts will remain. There's plans that we may put some basketball goals on the tennis courts where they could be used jointly, and there's also potential plans for pickleball, but with some striping.
Right.
But yes, those tennis courts do remain.
And so in front of the tennis courts, between the tennis courts and the baseball field, is a huge swale ditch.
Yes. And
That's going to be taken care of.
there's plans to do some regrading and try and get that water to go around the left side, as you're looking at the plan of the tennis courts, and bring it down to the bottom where that existing pond is. There's not any true pipe work. We're just planning on doing it with some grading and some sod to improve what's there.
And the design team has put together like a crown, like you would see. So this, any water that was on the surface, I mean, any football field that you see will have, positive drainage away from the field. So I think kudos to them to make sure that we got that properly draining. And there's a pond down there to the south between that and the football field I would assume house that water.
And this will be permanently fenced.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
See.
And then once we're done with this, I mean, our goal is once we're done with this, we don't go back over there.
Okay.
We want to try to eliminate any going back.
Okay. All right. We have a question here from Mr. Lloyd.
So I see you're going to be putting in a new well permit have you talked to the district or water management district about it, or y'all done any preliminary work with them? Who's your engineer?
The well currently is a late addition to the program. The 2 existing wells that are kind of in the middle of the plan around that dotted building, there's some potential that they could stay, but there's been direction from the district that they would prefer that the new ag well goes on the left of that football field.
Okay.
But to answer your question directly, know that all those permitting and engineering steps haven't fully been engaged yet,
But do you
just because it was a late addition to our scope.
Okay. Who is your engineer? Do you know who it is yet?
They're with us.
Okay. Not the same guy from Palaca A.
Yeah, we'll have a conversation.
Well, I think Mr. Holmes, along with me, would question that. I mean, there's been a lot of problems that have occurred because of that engineer, but keep going.
Okay.
I'm not aware of any of those, but
Yeah, I'll
we have an allowance that we're carrying to relocate that ag well out to there.
And there is a lead time if we did go that route, but we can always temporarily.
And I see you're going to sprig it, so you're not going to do the roll the turf.
It's been kicked both ways. The current subcontractor that we're scoping for that work has indicated that, and I think it's a better system to go ahead and put sod down because it'll get a quicker grasp and you can get it to hold better, especially knowing the district's going to want to use that PE field for their purposes, and seed's just going to take too long. So
Yeah. And the new varieties of the athletic turf are very hardy. In fact, I wish we could do all 3 football fields because walking on them at graduation, they need some work.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. And like we mentioned, I mean, this is just a snapshot of that one area that we'll need to do. We need to demo a few things there highlighted in the orange.
The bathrooms at the baseball fields, which would be the bathrooms that's children that are playing on, they're staying there.
Yeah.
Right next to the outfield of the baseball field? Yes, those bathrooms are gonna stay. There's been some discussion that while those bathrooms are inside the confines of our construction area, students wouldn't be able to get to them. We may be able to use them, but that's still being fine tuned. We're carrying money in our GMP for temporary toilets.
Yeah.
And I from our visits on site and talking with the athletic department and the principal, it seems like those restrooms are locked during the day and they're only open
But
during the evening for
If I
events.
was a PE teacher, that would be the restroom that I would want my students to go to.
Yes.
Just saying. But I'm not the principal. So.
Well, there, like you said, there is an opportunity to fence that out of our area that's not being removed.
Just interestingly, we've recently completed a similar project in Chiefland over for Levy County, and they had a similar restroom building, and we used the restroom building during construction, and then instead of paying for temporary toilets, that money we would have spent for temporary toilets, we went through and cleaned, painted, and spruced up those restrooms when we turned them
That
back
would
over.
be really
So
nice.
there's a
That would be
benefit if we can work out those details.
All right, and then like Mr. Bowlings and Bill had mentioned, we've included some of the long lead procurement items in this package. The fire water tank system that's located on that picture on the right, that has a 16 to 20 week lead time, and that's essential to get that that document approved and get it in order. We need to have that up and running by the time we go vertical on the CTE, which is one of the first buildings to build. So that's a hurdle that we need to jump on right away, is to get that in motion with that lead time, along with the electrical switch gear as things are coming online or close to coming online. Within that, we would need the electrical gear, which that currently has a 50 to 60 week lead time. So we pulled anything that we feel that is necessary. It's not the whole project, but it is in that electrical building that's over off to in phase one, if you will, that we'll be constructing, in the phase one part of the project. And like Bill had mentioned, the Florida Power and Light, we've included money in there. Once we get the design cost back from FP&L, we'll be ready to jump on that. Hopefully here in the next week or so, we'll be hearing back from them on their design and getting with them to go to the next steps.
Is it all underground?
The new,
Yeah, the new.
no, sir. The part of it will be above ground, and then when it hits somewhere in the area of the middle of the baseball field towards home plate, it goes underground and it runs underground from there. But out along the edge of the baseball field, it's above.
And some of that work we have to do underground. They do the overhead, so that underground work is included in this. That way we can get a jump start on that, because it like they all mentioned, the CTE building is important to get out of the way, get that easement released, and then establish the new easement over on the baseball side. And I think that's all the FPL items. All right.
And we did enjoy a nice groundbreaking out there a few weeks ago, and we're very excited to get started. So we're hopeful the board will give us a blessing and let us get to work. And if we get approval today, we'll be there on Monday. So we're ready to go. We're happy to answer any questions anybody obviously may have.
Okay, all right. Mr. Boland, did you write those down in regards to what Mr. Matthews stated? Oh, they're not on this one. Okay, all right. No, all right. I'm good with what I was going to ask. Mine was about FPL. That is tentatively set to be out of the way, hopefully this summer. That's going to take longer before our students, the majority of them, arrive in August.
FP&L has their own process and their own schedule, and we're working through it. There's this design and engineering period, and then they put a price, and that's what we're waiting on. So we've carried what they've indicated is enough, but when we get a real price from them, we'll turn them loose, and then it goes to their scheduling department. Hopefully there's not
That's not you.
That's not us, no, ma'am.
Right, okay.
But either way, when the students come back, either that existing easement will still be active, or the new or the new easement will be in place, and there will be power there, and that existing easement will be inside the confines of our construction area. So it won't, neither way, it would impact the students.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
This is not related to what you, but I've had a huge concern about the place where I believe this new building is. There's a huge, I mean, there's along this road, there's like a huge, they've had to really reinforce it and stuff. What's being done to the underground there that's gonna make it where they can hold that building?
Part of the, I think two questions, but there's an existing stormwater natural flow through the site that runs through that parking lot, actually runs on top of the Florida Power and Light easement, and then it runs around and through where the current PE football practice fields are. Part of our scope is to
Around it or under it?
under it.
Around, okay.
Parts it does both. But part of our scope is to put new stormwater pipe in that reroutes it even farther around. I'm gonna keep doing that. And then we'll remove the existing stormwater pipe. So we're gonna be able to better handle that stormwater that's flowing through the site, because you're not gonna stop it. And then the grading on that side of campus changes significantly from what's there now. So it should improve a lot of that area that looks a little suspect, and yes.
Okay.
And so you'll be working in the permitting process to get that done, along with the other things with water management, stormwater retention. Do you have any idea? I don't know how that flows. I've never been down there in a 1 in 50-year storm, but I'm just assuming there's a lot of water that goes through there.
It's from lakes too. I mean,
It goes to Crescent Lake.
It comes from across off property and comes across the property, and we're going back with a 48-inch, 4 foot diameter 4 foot diameter pipe that's going to relocate that water around there. So it'll definitely improve what's currently there.
There's quite a bit of erosion that does happen to Ms. Pickens' point, and I was hoping that it would alleviate that problem altogether.
Yes.
Solution.
And some of the civil design, it went through a bit of a redesign, and it's going to slow down the volume. The volume's still going to be there, but it's going to slow down the rate at which the volume of water moves, which should help in that erosion situation. There's multiple new retention ponds that are going in on site, so water will be collected and piped to those ponds, and then there's a system where they one will overflow into another pond, and then maybe another one, and then it'll go back and head down to the lake. So erosion,
so there's multiple new retention ponds.
yes, ma'am. At multiple new, and
Already.
some of the existing ones will get larger.
So that just takes away more field, more reason to move the bus compound off of that property.
The laws have changed significantly on stormwater retention and drainage since this school was built. Like, there was nothing basically then, and now there's a whole host of
So
things.
all of that will help, so.
And we won't do any relocation until the new's in. We don't want to jeopardize any of the school or any of the work that we're doing. So that's will be one of the first things we do once we get that part underway.
Okay. Mr. Buckles?
I've been dealing with construction management and the parish firm and associates for a lot of years, and I feel pretty comfortable that we need to get started, get rolling. I think time is of the essence for the kids in South Putnam. I saw that at the dedication when the kids were there and saw them break ground, and I think it's time to fish or cut bait. Let's go.
Okay. Mrs. Wagner?
In reviewing this and also hearing your words today, I do think it's important, and I understand the time frame here. and I appreciate the fact y'all are getting on it and getting some things done prior to, because I had some safety concerns. So if we're moving forward to get certain things done before the kids move in, I do think that's a good idea.
Mr. Leary?
Madam Chairman, I've reviewed this pretty thoroughly, and since it's just a partial GMP, I think they've done a good job, and it certainly needs to move forward, and they've got some things they've got to do. Otherwise, we're going to be held up even longer. The permitting process, FP&L, if you get a problem with them, let me know. We'll have Mr. Payne call their lobbyists and see if we can't get a little, and put them, get them motivated.
Sounds good.
But no, ma'am, I think it's good.
Okay, and I have none. All right. Superintendent?
No, ma'am.
All right. Now, how are we going to do this by roll call? Mr. Attorney? We'll get the motion and then we'll do the roll call. Okay. All right, we will now entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion that we accept this partial GMP from Parish McCall.
I will second that motion because we do need to get started to have a safe place for the kids when they come back from school in the summer. Get it started.
Thank you, sir. It's been motioned by Mrs. Holly Pickens that we go ahead and move forward with the partial GMP for Parish McCall, and second by Mr. David Buckles. Just to make sure we've covered everything. Any further questions? If not, are we ready to vote? All right, we're ready.
Okay. District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes, sir.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
We'll be back in a few weeks with the rest of them.
okay.
That's what I'm really.
Thank y'all.
Sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck. Thank you. Good luck.
I will say, Phil, Bobby did good getting the money for that.
Okay.
Bobby did a good job, Phil.
I can back out of the way once, because my part's pretty quick.
Okay.
This will only take 1 second here. Thank you. I'll put my glasses on, it would help. All right.
Mr. Marini? Did I
Yes, ma'am.
get that correct?
Marini, yes, ma'am.
Marini.
It's close enough.
All right. And you did hear the questions that were posed.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
And this is Mr. Sewell. Yes, ma'am.
If you will address
Of
those
course.
as a part of your presentation, we would appreciate that.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, Board Superintendent. My name's Tim Sewell. I'm the Regional Director for Ajax. My responsibility is kind of overseeing operations managers throughout the state of Florida. In this case, James and his Senior Project Manager, Bill Morgan Elliott's in the crowd as well. So excited. I mean, this is a big step to providing this facility to the school. We look forward to answering your questions. I did like to touch on a couple of the questions that were raised earlier. In terms of the AE fees and civil fees, that's not in our number. Typically, they are not and would not be in a CM at risk number, so those aren't included in our number. In terms of contingency, any contingency left over will go back to the district. So no, we don't keep any of that money. That contingency pot is there for, future work and elements that are unforeseen that show up that need to be dealt with as a team, and that will go back to the district once we're done with the job. So with that, I'm going to let James kind of go through the presentation and we'll answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon. Thank you guys very much for having us. Very quickly, proud daddy moment. So my son, he's 12. He graduated from Putnam, from Melrose Elementary. Mustangs, go Mustangs. He did pretty good. He was one of the last kids to go up, and the lady said, James is going to, James the third. So they say, yeah, he's going to take him a while. He's got a lot of awards, and sure enough, he racked them up. And I saw a couple folks there. I saw Dr. Cerncy, and he came up and deemed him a genius. And James was very proud. So thank you guys for everything, because
You didn't answer. Did he get that from his mother?
He got it from his mama. Yes, that is it. Okay. I think you guys all have this in front of you. So we've provided this summary piece of the GMP, and it's actually, the folks from Parish McCall actually had a little higher, heavier lift because they're doing a partial, so they have to kind of explain, what you're getting in this and what you're not. Luckily for me, I don't really have to do that here. The reason I don't have to do that is because it's a full GMP, and so we're including, essentially everything that design professional, Greg, his team have put in the documents that would be in our scope. And just to take you through that process a little bit, once we get the documents, well, let me step back. So once we get selected, I'm drumming up interest from subcontractors right off the bat. And then as we go through the design phases, we check to make sure that we're, coming in where we should be as far as dollars. And that's one of the benefits of having us engaged early. And then once we get the 100%, we put it out in the street. And, we have drummed up a lot of interest, well over 500 bidders. With 100 bids on bid day. We talk extensively. We open those with Mr. Bowling's team. It's all a very transparent process, and a lot of participation. There were some challenges as far as location, but we feel like we got really good involvement as far as where we are. Geographically. So that's kind of how that works. And, throughout that process, we're also looking at the documents that Mr. Kelly's team puts together and, speaking with folks, going as deep as talking to Mr. Larry with the key shop, the hardware guy, to make sure that all the documents are in line with what you guys are going to get in the GMP. So we take it many steps down the road to make sure that we're putting in this GMP what is needed by the district. So in this summary, you'll see the executive summary, our cost narrative, our base, the summary report, our quals, and an allowance schedule. So this project, to give you an idea, and I think you guys are pretty well familiar with it by now, but it's a little over 155,000 square foot, Crescent City. It's got the classroom, the admin, the separate gymnasium, the covered play areas. It's a CMU structure with cold form metal trusses. It's got that 91,000 gallon storage tank, and the detention pond. And the total for this is $68,657,591. That includes, we kind of separate this by division, so that includes all 30. I think it's 32 divisions. So it's for a complete facility. The specifics of what is included are in the qualifications in detail, but that is the overall cost for the project.
Are you at,
Yes, ma'am.
excuse me,
Please.
Are you at a point where you could entertain a question?
Absolutely. Please, I'd love to.
Yeah, going back to your initial comments about, subcontractors and bids and everything.
Yes, sir.
Other than Loman Fence, which is the only contractor that I see from Putnam County.
Yes, sir.
How many, do you have any others?
Yes, sir. So, we don't have any as the apparent low right now other than Loman. So we engaged Platka Welding on this project. Their number was a little bit higher than, it was higher than the other steel guy, but they're very much engaged. We have also made sure to engage local folks like a Dire Need. We're going to hire those folks to do our porta potties. I think what we are doing very, very well, although sometimes, some of the local folks may not be able to keep up with this large of a project. And some folks, be quite honest, even when you reach out to them, they're like, you know what, that's too big. I don't want it. So, but I think what we're really bringing is, we are connecting and engaging our, larger tier, our first tier subcontractors with the local folks and ensuring that, hey, look, if you can buy this stuff local, do it. I've talked to countless folks about that type of thing. Hey, Mr. Site Guy from St. Augustine, you're going to need dirt haulers. Let's get them from, Plaque area. So that's the kind of thing that we're trying to, we thought the project would be best served that way. In other words, if we can't pre-qual and necessarily hire a guy for a, whatever it is, $3 million concrete package, we can certainly get that guy to, get some local folks involved. And that's what we've been trying to do since pretty much get go. And Thomas's team has also encouraged that, and also speaking with Mr. Turner about a lot of that. So we feel like we've done a good job, although you don't see him on the list there as local first tier.
I wouldn't expect to see any because I don't think we have that. We don't have this type of construction in Putnam County, and
Right.
we don't have the contractors, with the exception of maybe K&R Electric, that
Right.
and they specialize in multifamily. So
And I did contact them.
yeah,
But yes, sir, we do think that's very important. I mean, I think I've lived in Putnam County my whole life, and so it was important to me personally. But yes, absolutely, we've engaged everybody we possibly could. So
Also, there's also a potential of using the job site trailer as the hub. We've done that on a lot of our jobs where we will post out, advertisement that for people that are looking for work that live in the local Putnam County area so that they can come to us. We can connect the dots then. Okay, you have some experience in this. Let's put you in contact with the sub that's doing this kind of work here. You'd be amazed at how many local hires that can be gotten by just making sure that's advertised, and that's definitely something we do on all of our jobs. So.
yeah, that's a great point, Tim. And I think maybe here we do take it a step further and really, really advertise it, because even if you have a project that's going on that you don't advertise, you'd be surprised how many folks show up the trailer. Hey, I do drywall work. Can I get a job? And you're like, well, here's the drywall guy. Absolutely. So, anyway.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, of course. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to answer any questions you have. I mean, again, we're pretty in line with where we thought we were going to be at DD. This is not a big shocker to us. As we all know, construction price, they're not going to get cheaper, and the construction prices are high. Do we have any more here that we need to address on this? I think there was some concern about difference in GMPs.
Yeah, there was some talk about, what the big differences are between the GMT maybe you saw last time.
Yeah.
The job in this one.
yeah, it's about 8.6 million
Right.
difference.
In cost, but in terms of scope, and
Right.
James maybe touch on that.
So it is a good question, because it's probably the first thing I would look at. So it's a great question. And I think I used it, little humor here, and it's not a joke, but it's kind of apples and kumquats. And the reason I say that is because if you just take site, and I can show you something real quick that might give you kind of a good idea of what I'm talking about. Let's see. So if you just take site, which is over, if you compared the site values of different GMPs, but these are to scale. So you can just get an idea of that's just not knowing anything about construction. That's 5,000 more feet of fence just alone. There's some other details about that. It's a 41-acre site versus a 16. There's 2 times the amount of road and base and asphalt. There's off-site work along Huntington Road, quite a significant amount that the other project would not see. There's about 2 times the amount of storm waste, water piping, and structures. So it is wise to do that comparison. It's just until you really dig deep, it's hard to do it just general. You have to look close at the details. And I don't want to go, into every single detail, but this I thought was a good graphical representation to kind of show you, the difference in just the site work. Most of the trade package are pretty close to what Aussie are. There are just some that are infected. Our project actually has 30% more exterior walls. What does that translate to? It translates to more doors. It translates to more windows. So all that stuff, it's just the way it works. It's you can't just say this one's 154, this one's 155. You can't.
So on material cost, how much are you seeing an increase on a monthly or quarterly basis?
We are using what now for escalation?
Right now, we're using a 0.5 point a month.
Right.
So that's like 1.5 a quarter. So you can do the extrapolation. That's still, 6% a year, and we are down from where it was a year, 2 years, where we were 10% plus across the board. So I think things have leveled off some in terms of the pricing, but we haven't seen the drop. And that's what we caution our owners on is we have some owners come to us and they say, should we wait? And our comment so far, and has been consistently over the last 3 or 4 years, is no, you should buy now. This is probably as low as it's going to be. And if anything, it will hover there. It won't go down yet. And so They don't like hearing that, but that's kind of what's happening in the market.
And I do understand, and that's a great point. And I do understand the concern. I know the gentleman wisely, I think that was smart stuff, talking about some of the zoning issues. But we have been talking about that and working hand in glove with Thomas's team. I mean, so, we need to get the GMP approved as soon as we can so that we can lock the subcontractors in and lock the costs in. That's the push, right? So that gets us home. It locks us in. We know what it is. The zoning stuff I don't see as an issue because Thomas and I are going to work very closely together. We're not going to go out there and mobilize and start, spending money and then say, well, we don't have zoning, so now we're going to charge you every month. We're not going to do that. We're going to work closely with him. We're going to make sure that, things are either imminent or very close to imminent. We're going to have, hey, we can do this, and this, and then we're going to plan on getting zoning here. We're going to do that wisely. We're not just going to, go in guns blazing and say, well, now we're stopped. We're not going to do that. We have a lot of experience.
Yes.
So what we're talking about is not only zoning, but annexation, comp plan policy change.
Yes, sir.
And probably late July, August before at least the city commission approves it. And I'm not sure what the county's schedule is, maybe in August too.
Yes, sir.
If you were in my place.
Yes, sir.
And you're committing to almost $70 million.
Yes, sir.
Without that. And being a planner that's been in probably 1,000 hearings over the last 30 years,
right?
You don't know how you're ever coming out. I mean, it is a quandary. I can tell you, it causes me some consternation.
It's a good point. I mean, it is. So, I mean, we're a partner with you guys. We consider ourselves like an extension of you. That's how we have always considered ourselves. So, I would say that there is still a benefit to getting the subcontractors engaged, getting them under contract, locking the prices in, and, talking with the team and determining the best path forward. If you look at I have a schedule in the GMP that builds the zoning in based on what we're expecting right now. So in other words, that bases it on a start date that we have thought of that would work. If, you executed and said, let's go, that would not mean that we're going to go and mobilize immediately. We would still talk through it. If there were concerns, we could push that off still. It would be not a big deal. So I don't think you're at much risk as you would think, but I understand your concern.
Can I ask a question, please?
Of course.
So, do you envision actually entering into contracts with your subs
So
on the short term?
We can typically write subcontracts and kind of lock them in, with little smaller dollar values to kind of lock them in to make sure that these values are locked in. Tim, I mean, I'm sure we can come up with other ways. It is important to lock them in.
Yeah, we have what we call contingent contracts, which basically locks in the overall number for the job, and then it identifies like submittals, engineering, and procurement activities that are needed for long lead equipment and things that we need to get moving on, which can get moved on without mobilizing to the site. So we identify what that value is. So the school board is recognizing that, okay, of this $3 million contract, only $50,000 of it is tied into engineering, submittals, and early procurement.
Right.
So we would authorize them to proceed with that. And then once we're locked in and we know we're off and running, then we'd authorize the balance of their contract to move forward.
So that's kind of where I was headed, was the possibility of contingencies, because as has Phil, I've been engaged in land use law for a long time, and I'm not handling the rezoning or the comp plan change or any of that in Crescent City. But I've met with the folks down there after the issue was discovered, and my question would be, I think it's a question the board's gonna wanna know. I agree 100% that you never can completely rely on getting approval of a site like this. I think it has a lot going for it in talking to staff at Crescent City. I think it shouldn't be a heavy lift for a variety of reasons, but when you're dealing with a town council, a planning commission, you never can tell. Right. And I guess my question is it possible for you to give the board a number that you think we'd be out if you got your contingency commitments from your subs and then the worst happened and we didn't get approval? You know what I'm saying?
Just kind of gave it. I think that would be it.
Yeah, I mean, and we've done that before. I mean, like I say, two things. One, we want to lock the trades in so they don't escalate their numbers.
Yes.
We want to do that. That's for your benefit.
Yes.
That's for our benefit, everybody. Secondly, we can go back to them and ask for that early cost amount. And if the board wants to just authorize, this up to this amount to get subs locked in,
Middle's going.
get things going, get submittals going. We can do that analysis. It's not something we can just inherently pull off of what we got, but we can do that analysis and come back if that's the direction.
So if the worst happened and we don't get approval, I know all of that depends upon timing, and you're probably gonna have to know exactly when your first and second hearing dates are before the commission down there and so forth. But I guess, and I'm that person that always looks for whatever certainty I can provide the client. So it'd be possible for you to tell the board what they'd be out, and some of that cost I know might be transferred to a different project, maybe not. I mean, that's your
Understood.
ball field, not mine, but you'd be able to give the board some idea of what would happen if the worst happened down there and they didn't get approval.
Be very easy for us to do.
Because
Yes.
right now, what they've got, as you may or may not know, is they've got one portion of this tract that's within Crescent City limits. So that's going to be
Yep.
zoning approval, comp plan approval within Crescent City. And then another portion that's in the county right now that's going to have to be annexed and then comp planned and zoned. So, there's a couple of questions down there where there could be hangups.
Sure. Understood.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that's easy for us to give you. So,
Okay, back to
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
to the zoning question.
yes, ma'am.
How long does that process, ballpark figure about, how long will that take, if everything aligns?
It's my understanding, and I'm not heading that part up. I'm not in charge of it, but it's my understanding that July, August is the date that we're shooting for ferreting out that issue completely.
I don't have that exact date.
Okay.
in front of me. I sent Charles Rudd a
Okay.
text message 30 minutes ago and didn't get it. I was hoping you had it committed to memory, just the anticipated date that we're looking at.
It's my understanding that they did make the cycle deadline so that it is going to be on the next available planning commission meeting. And then you've got, the publication timeframes and then the 2 meetings of the city commission. So I don't have the latest projection from staff as to when they think they'd have it in front of the second meeting, Mr. Bowling.
So I'm sorry I can't answer your question.
This meeting, I'll let everybody know.
Probably
Okay.
into August, based on the advertisement time.
Yeah, I was thinking it was an August with a possible September as your last potential date, but I don't want to be quoted on that because I'm not sure.
Understood.
Just to put this out there, that there is a lot of upfront work on a job of this size.
Yes.
We would love that opportunity to get going. So not only issuing contracts, but all the submittals and the review and the coordination, because all that's good for the district. It's good for us as your contractor to make this job, shine and come together like you're wanting. So I'm all for that. If we have time up front to do that, that's a great thing. So.
Yeah, and we have already begun engaging. Just no contract, just begin engaging. FPL and those folks so that we can grease these skids early so that we can hit the ground running. We've already started some of those processes, but as far as your question request, yes, we can do that, sir.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, proceed.
Do we, well, I mean, do we have, I don't know if we have any more questions or not. Did I get all yours? I think, I mean, again, I feel very confident. We put a lot of work into it. We do want to get started. We do think it's the best thing is to get these locked in. And we are very much looking forward to building it for you. I don't know that I have much more to present other than just glad to answer any additional questions.
Okay, and we have
Yeah,
Ms.
Oh, yes, sir, Mr.
So I know this is a joint venture between Turner Construction, but I don't see any reference to it in the GMP or what they're gonna do.
Yes, sir.
But we're gonna pay something for them.
No, sir.
No?
No, sir.
I mean, or you're gonna pay?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, sir.
But it's part of your contract, so it's included within the,
We didn't include any costs for that consultation.
really?
No, sir.
Okay. I saw there was also in here.
You get him for free.
Hey, that ain't gonna happen.
No, I mean, as far as you're concerned, you are.
Yeah. The sinkholes,
Yes, sir.
which are I know you have earthquake insurance and stuff, but down there, you're very more highly likely to get a sinkhole than you are an earthquake. And
Right.
just because when I got out of college, I worked in that area with ag and the fern. The fern industry has declined, so they don't do the freeze protection like they did, in the 80s.
Yes, sir.
But that pumpage and that hydrology and the aquifer system in there is very prone to sinkholes. So
Yes, sir.
Is anything included in the insurance in this?
So we have included builder's risk, and Tim, I believe that we'll have to talk specifically about sinkholes, but we have included standard builder's risk. We've also, the team has done some due diligence as far as some geotech. So I mean, I guess there's always the risk. I don't know that there's anything specifically that says if there's a sinkhole, we got you here, but.
So they've done their geotechnical soil.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, typically, the way seen it in the past, the geotech report is done, the structural design and civil is designed based on that geotech report. So if there are areas of concern, they're identified early, and we price the remediation of that within our cost. So if they haven't identified, and you tell me, was there anything identified?
No, sure.
So if they haven't identified any potential issues with that site, and if we were to run into one, we would definitely look to identify that while we're proof rolling the pad.
Correct.
Prepping the site so that I've had a job where we discovered we had sinkhole activity as we prepped the site. So the process there was, okay, we got the geotech report engineer out there, we got the specialty contractor that fills those sinkholes in, and then we worked up a price. We used contingency dollars to deal with that issue. I would hope that's the way we would approach it, is we'd identify those before we go vertical.
Right.
Now, your question about what may happen if we go vertical in a sinkhole, I'll be honest, I'd have to have my risk manager do some research on what that looks like.
If something that bad were to happen, we'd be good partners to have along the way. I mean, that's the best I can give you right now.
That same dialogue came up years ago when we built QI Roberts
Yes, sir.
School, and of course there were people that were so angry that they didn't want the school built on that particular site, that we had everything from worried about lights bringing sea turtles out of the ocean to Indian burial grounds to sinkholes.
Yes, sir.
And I can remember meeting with representatives of the Cherokee Nation. I probably told this story before, and riding around, and they said, well, our ancestors wouldn't have built on this sand hill. So, I mean, it wouldn't have made burial grounds.
Yes.
But anyway, I go back to what Mr. Leary said. As far as local contractors, the more local people we can pick up that can get jobs doing sheetrock, drywall, whatever kind of work you've got is good. We've done that in the past. I know the same people that the family now that I believe owns Loman had the bid to landscape prior schools like QI and different ones. So it's usually the same folks that have been passed down and still in the same kind of business that do that. The Crescent City site, I remember when we put the water line in years ago, city water and sewage to go all the way to the high school and to save the spray effluent problem down there at the high school. And we, a prior board discussed openly how nice that would be for a site right there. And so, it's just, even when they did the E.H. Miller, a prior board did that, that'll be a good school site one day. So this is done over time, and it's done historically, and that doesn't mean it's always right. But if my concern is, I want to follow the attorney's advice on a contingency and make sure that we don't get, I don't perceive a problem down the road with this, but I'm not an attorney.
Sure.
But I did go down to the site prior to graduation and piddle around a little bit, and reminded me of walking students down there and stuff we did years ago when I worked at the elementary school. But anyway, just as long as the attorney, we can work out some type of an agreement with his advice on a, contingency, that's my concern on this site.
Yes, sir.
So,
So,
Okay.
can I ask one more question?
Yes,
Oh, I'm
sir.
sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
interrupt you. Go
you
ahead.
go ahead. Are you done? All right. No, you finish up.
Okay.
No,
All
no,
right. Yep,
no,
yep.
you finish up and then, we'll go
I
ahead.
can be toward the
with
end.
Mrs. Wagner,
Oh, I'm
and then
sorry.
your
Yeah,
turn.
I'll be quick. So I didn't see anywhere in the document where it says that, we will receive 100% of the contingency but that is, I mean, that's a given. So
Yeah.
it's on the record. We're
correct.
good.
So,
Okay. All right, I'm through
How,
now.
how do you
100%.
access the contingency? Does that require special work order?
I got you. So let's say there was a legitimate use of contingency, whatever that may be defined as. However, as a team, we decide it's a legitimate. So our team would send what's called a CCR, which is a contingency change request. So then Mr. Bowling's staff would get that. Mr. Kelly's folks would get it, and we would all as a team say, yes, that's legit, sign it. And then the dollars within the schedule of values, within the job, it would be moved from contingency to whatever it was funding. That's how it works. We don't just willy nilly use that for that, and that's not how it works. It's very structured, and they have to sign it.
So the contingency stays a contingency until the school board representative agrees that it can be applied to a cost number.
Yes, sir.
Correct. And again, anything left over in that pot
Back into the
goes
job.
back to the district at the end of the day.
And
That's
then one more question, probably.
Please. We put a lot. We're proud of our work, so ask.
So do you have any idea when you could come up with that, let's say it's that contingency number that the board would be out if in fact the worst happened down there on the zoning issue?
It'll be the only thing I work on. A week, if that.
And right now, as we sit here, I might have one more question. Do you even have a ballpark as to what that number might be?
It's going to depend, So the reason I say that is a little bit, you may ask one subcontractor, hey, will you get started with some middles, and how much will that cost? And some packages are pretty easy to put together, right? They don't take a lot of work, and so they may not put a high dollar value on those. Others, they have to pay for like engineering costs. Maybe we put some of those off until, it's that's why there's so many moving. But when I get the subcontractor's input, I should be able to get that quickly, and then I can pretty quickly give you guys a good idea.
I know it's more work for you, and I appreciate
I don't
your
mind.
response.
I don't mind, really.
All right, Mrs. Wagner. Next board.
Yeah, and just a couple of things, and I do appreciate you speaking to me earlier because you cleared out a few of my questions.
No problem.
I do also have a concern about committing to this kind of money, especially if we are not positive on, the zoning and just all of that. So I do think it's a great suggestion that we get the numbers of what are we going to lose if that were to happen. That being said, just a couple of things that I know you and I had spoke about a little bit ago. One was on the subcontractors. I know you said you had reached out to.
Over 500.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And the one I think you had brought up specifically on plumbing and electrical, you're
Yes.
explaining some of the
Sure.
costs and,
Yeah.
and the rising costs and the reasons for that, and
Sure.
if you could just sort of touch on that.
So one of the ones that was kind of apples to apples thing was, or apples to kumquats, as I said, was the site, which I kind of explained to you guys. Plumbing, like I said, the projects are different. So, you can explain when you see variances, you want to, they stand out to you. You want to look at them closely, and plumbing, could be considered one. But like I said, there's 30% more exterior wall area. This particular school has bathrooms in every classroom, so that obviously the plumbing number is going to be higher than a school without that same feature. And what we were talking about a little bit was some of the challenges that folks are having in general getting plumbing subcontractors at this time, just due to the workload of plumbing subcontractors, and then the geographical location of the site. So that was one of the more I guess the way to say it is that was one of the more challenging packages. But overall, pretty good subcontractor involvement and competitive pricing. You know, it's everybody going for it. So, you know, you get to select the best qualified, lowest price. So that's the best scenario for you guys.
And just a couple others. I know we also spoke about just as an example, the athletic equipment.
Yes, ma'am.
Because my question had been, we've got, $110,000 worth of athletic equipment, and I was
ma'am.
wanting to know. You told me some of it.
I did. I told you some, and I know you were like, "Hey, it's $100,000. What all's in there?" And I couldn't remember off the top of my head exactly every element, but it's certainly like basketball goals, wall padding, Bill, in the athletic equipment subcontractors cost, volleyball nets. I think they're doing the surfacing as well, or the athletic flooring as well. Is that accurate? SSE.
It is surfacing, but I was trying to recall which line item we had.
Right.
So I don't know if that was in that number or not.
I can get you. We have the scope. I just don't have it like at the top of my head. But we have the scope that everything that's included. I know I'm forgetting something. I think they have the scoreboards as well.
Bleachers in there?
Bleachers are separate.
Bleachers are separate.
Does
Yes,
it
ma'am.
include playground equipment, not just gymnasium equipment? So no playground equipment is included.
The playground equipment is excluded because we understood that it was going to be correct.
It's in the fixture, furniture, and equipment. but
Correct. It's a separate budget that they keep.
Budget's not in there.
So there will be, I mean, there is a nice playground
Yes.
there, but, okay.
Yes. It's just where it's at. It's like Prego. It's in there somewhere, but not in ours.
And my last question is under the owner's tax savings.
Yes, ma'am.
So toward the end there, it's got potential ODP savings allowance, and that is a negative $885,000.
Correct.
So that is bringing your overall total down by $885,000.
Correct.
But that's a potential savings.
Correct.
So are you saying the guaranteed maximum price could be $885,000 more than what you're telling us?
Technically, yes. We've never not met. I've never not met my potential savings. Okay. So what that means, if you just roughly take a construction project and you say, okay, 25% or whatever is material, right? So, and you take those numbers and you roughly estimate how much you're going to get tax rate in the county, and then how much we're anticipating reaching that. So, and hopefully doing better than that, which would make it even better. But we feel really comfortable when we put a negative allowance like that in a GMP. Is there always a potential that I don't know, anything can happen, right? But we are very confident that savings will be reached.
And you said you have never.
I haven't ever. No. I don't know if you've ever had an issue with that.
That amount, we've actually done much better.
Yes.
In terms of percentage of total GMP versus the potential sales tax. So I see that 885 as a fairly conservative number.
Correct.
We could be north of $1 million.
Right.
On this, and that would take 200,000 more going back to the district that's
Right.
not accounted for in these current GMP.
We don't want to promise it.
Potential.
Right.
And,
And I get it. We call it an allowance because inevitably it's going to go either up or slightly down. It's not going to be that number.
Right.
Right.
Because it's strictly based on what we can generate and get. So that's why we plug it in as an allowance. So.
Gotcha.
I think you'll be pleased with that process.
No, I'm speaking. So he said, Mr. Murray
Yes, ma'am.
said possibly a week's time you could let us know.
Yes, ma'am.
Most definitely the question that you asked regarding what if.
Well, we talked on the side there, and
Okay.
I don't know,
All right,
Just-
if one of you would share that, because then that will let me know the direction to go with our.
Larry and
if we're
Mr.
gonna vote.
Sorosy asked about, or we talked about the possibility of, should you choose to, approving it with the condition that I guess you'd say the default number, for lack of a better term, the number that we would end up having to pay, and that would basically not be recovered, not exceed either a certain dollar amount or a certain percentage, whatever the board feels comfortable with. That's sort of why I asked if he could even ballpark it for me as to what that number might be.
To make a motion for it.
Yes,
So,
So I just don't know. I understand exactly what the gentleman indicated about, some subs are gonna tell you, hey, if you tell me to go forward and you sign a contract with me and then you call me off and you wait until September to do it, I'm gonna already have X dollars in this project and somebody's gonna have to pay me. I get that. Then some are gonna say, no, I can wait, and, I won't have that much in it in terms of out-of-pockets before that date. And I just have no idea of estimating what that reasonable number should be. I have no way of.
But James, let me ask you this.
Yes,
I
sir.
guess we're looking at worst case. You said September possibly.
You haven't heard back from.
I'm still waiting, and I like, just the logic of your timeline, and I've got additional kind of questions running around in my head. Number one, how long is this GMP good for? We had to jump back and punt completely, or drop back and punt completely. What are we on the hook for in terms of money, and then you start comparing the two things, where's the biggest loss come from by delay?
Yeah, good question. So I guess I need to see if I can make sure I got some clarification. My understanding was that you thought it might be possible for you to go to your sub, lock in a number.
Yes.
But also lock in an amount that they would require in the event you had to bail.
Yes.
We had to bail in September or August or whenever that last hearing date is because of failure to achieve zoning approval.
Yes.
So you'd have a number, the way I understood it, you'd have a number as to what the sub would charge, but you'd also have a number as to what the sub would charge you if you couldn't go forward, so that, you'd be kind of a little bit at least aware on both ends. That was my thought.
Yeah, the issue,
May not want to.
the issue we'll run in there, and it's not really an issue, but we can clearly define what it takes to do the submittals and the engineering and all that upfront work.
That's right.
Before an order is placed. Where you run into the issue is when you need to place the order. Because when we place the order, we are committing to that contractor, okay, I want, 160,000 block for your project, and I'm gonna place that order and they're gonna start producing. That's kind of the drop dead in my mind. So I think our goal would be to get the first part, identify that, and not release them to actually go make anything or place the hard order until we're convinced the zoning is gonna pass like everybody's hoping,
Right.
right? So that's the number, and that will not be based on experience, that won't be a big number.
Right.
I mean, we can pretty quickly come to that. We just need to talk with the subs and get that input back from them.
Well, what I was trying to ask is, say by September, and I know the order and all that, I understand that, but what would be happening on site? I mean, would you actually be, I know there's a little bit of preparation involved, but are you actually digging footers and pouring slab, or what exactly is happening by September?
Well, it was our initial kind of internal discussion and plan that, if this was original, to kind of get started, set the site up, begin some of the site work, because some of those structures and such take a while. Structures, I mean, the like manholes and things like that, take a while to get. So you get that submittal process going, get the site started, do some of the, site related stuff and not go vertical. And the schedule was set up that way so that we weren't going vertical until we were, pretty assured that the zoning was going to come through.
That's where I was going with that.
But it sounds like, it sounds like that's not really, desired, but we had it scheduled such that would work perfectly, and not, cause any additional GCs. We don't want to charge you additional GCs because there's a stopping point, right? We don't want that. So that was kind of the way we were moving forward with it. If the board isn't comfortable with that, then the second recommendation would be like Tim said, and like you suggested, would be to give you, that value of what, hey, if the sky fell, this is what we would be on the hook for. And we're glad to give that to you. And then work out the logistics of how that works so you guys can bless us to move forward with that.
So the only issue that I have is, I don't know what the position of Crescent City would be on your starting, I guess pushing dirt probably is not gonna be something they object to. I don't know that for a fact. But if you start pouring cement, then they might. They
Right.
might. I don't know. I mean, it's possible that the engineers could talk to them and see, but that's the only concern I would have, is that if you start putting something like concrete in the ground, or even whether it be footers or otherwise, without some kind of agreement with Crescent City, it might be
Sure.
an issue.
And it makes sense. I mean, that makes sense. So, like I said, we weren't planning those activities. We had it planned to where the schedule would kind of, we'd be working and staying busy and being productive and getting things, site work and those kinds of things, but not actually going vertical until we got but like I said, if the concern's there, then, the other route certainly will work. Lock it in, get the subs locked in, which is to me, the most critical. We don't want that to continue to escalate. Because that wouldn't be good either. So,
Well, I'm just the old attorney, so.
No, it makes sense.
It's not for me to make
Here's-
decisions. They're gonna have to make the decision.
Here's my
But we need to
question,
hear what you're
Don.
saying.
My question is, I don't feel comfortable doing something that you don't recommend. Now, if they've got a way to come up with a contingency in an amount in a week where they're pushing dirt and doing those things, and you feel comfortable with the board with that, I mean, we could hold an emergency meeting and approve it. But, until I feel that, I don't perceive there's going to be a problem with the zoning. I really don't, but you never know. You don't know.
From speaking with staff, there are a number of reasons why there probably shouldn't be a problem. For one thing, it doesn't appear as though the industrial zoning in the county, that would be a potential conflict. Doesn't appear that it was something that was planned in a way that might justify it remaining industrial. In other words, it's in a high aquifer recharge area.
Yeah.
And the policies of the Putnam County Comp Plan they aren't consistent with allowing industrial zoning in high aquifer recharge areas. And that adjacent industrial comp plan, the future land use designated property, it's in that high recharge area. In addition, I don't think I'm out of school to say that the Crescent City staff thinks that the area around that school is probably, the way development is trending, more suitable for residential than ag or other things, given
Absolutely.
its proximity to the collectors and so forth. They also think that those two collector roads are probably, I don't want to overstate, but they're among the more suitable sites from a transportation perspective, because you've got those two roads. What is it, Union Avenue and
Huntington.
309.
308, yeah, it's
308,
308 and Union. So, I mean, in talking to staff, because I did, Mr. Buckles, I asked staff, listen, forget about whether there is or isn't some momentum going this way. As a planner, what do you think about this site? And they told me that, and I asked them, please tell me the same thing now that you tell me later on. And they told me that they thought that there were a number of reasons why that site worked. And for instance, if the area around it develops residential, now you've got the school in an area where you've got residences.
Yeah.
And the transportation side of it with 308 and Union. So, and I did not know these things. I was asking the question. So I will tell you that from staff's perspective, I think they like the project. And, well, that's what they told me. So I would tend to agree with you, Mr. Buckles, but like Mr. Leary, I've just gone in front of boards too many times and been surprised, so that I want to, I at least want you to know what what's at stake in terms of should we get turned down, what it is that, that the district would be losing.
Well, my desire would be that you guys could work out a contingency within a week or in the next week and a half or so, and then we'll hold an emergency meeting and go over if you feel comfortable with what you guys work out.
James and I was just talking a little bit. If it made sense, obviously the board's got to do what feels right. But if you approved the GMP with a caveat that says Ajax will bring to the board or bring to everybody a number for review, because I'm assuming all this would have to be captured within a GMP amendment or some kind of amendment to contract. I'm just throwing that out. Where you approve the GMP knowing that we're not going to do anything until we get the amendment, and the amendment's going to identify a value that's not to exceed to begin with. but you know what I'm saying, but you already
The
kind of,
advantage of that over just waiting for a week to approve. the
or
GMP.
it's, well, I'm just trying, time and people getting together and summer schedule.
Drafting the amendment and, yeah.
Just throw that out.
Because, yes,
Think you could push it to 1 week so that it would meet the next board meeting?
I'll do whatever I can, sir.
I'm sure you will. I'm in no way being critical.
No, I know you're not. No, I didn't take it that way.
And obviously, you can't put an exact number to it. I mean, it's going to be a general number. I understand that. I just think, our fiduciary responsibility as elected officials, and, Mr. Holmes and I go back a long way. He was board attorney for the planning commission when I was planning director here. So, and I too think that the commission, having worked with them and been interim city commissioner down there, that they're all for it. But they can't say that,
Right.
And so here we are. We're the quandary. But if we could just come back in a week and have the the contingency, then I think we can get it out of here.
so then are we going to vote to
It would be
table
a,
this?
well, I think I'm hearing, a table.
Or continue to.
Or
Well, I'm just saying, is that what you're suggesting?
either table it or make a motion that we let the attorney get with the contractors and work out a contingency that can be brought back to the board.
But I think you have an actionable item here. You need to decide what you can do with today.
So have you already advertised for your next meeting, your agenda? So,
We can advertise this.
I'm sorry?
Can't we advertise for a week from today?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was asking, if she'd already advertised her next meeting, so it'd be a problem with the agenda, then I would say continue this to the date certain, so you don't have to
That's exactly what I
re-advertise.
was saying.
Okay.
So we don't have to re-advertise and we can just come in and get it done.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Is that the one on the 18th?
Any further questions before we entertain a motion? Okay, all right, Mr. Leary.
Holly, you okay?
Well, I'm thinking that my question would best be asked at the next meeting.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
So, Madam Chairman, I will move that we continue the hearing for the approval of the GMP on the Crescent City Elementary School to 3:30 p.m. on June the
Is it 18?
18th.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, it's been motioned by Mr. Leary that we will continue our discussion on Crescent City School, Elementary School. And you said something else.
Oh, to continue it to a time
To
certain.
June,
3
to June 18th and
3:30 p.m.
3:30 p.m. We will pick up where we left off, giving the company Ajax the opportunity to get with the subcontractors and do what needs to be done. Second by Mrs. Linda Wagner. Any further discussion? All right. Are we ready to vote? Well, we don't vote. We don't have to vote, do we? Yes, we do.
Yeah, we do. Got a motion.
Don't have to do a roll call.
That we closed it out, all right? All right, we're ready to vote. All in favor, let it be known by aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Okay,
Thank you guys very much for letting us
Thank you.
present, and thank you.
We might could, put that on the front of the meeting.
thank you for your vote. This
James,
out for us.
normally, let me ask you something, just for expediency. If we could put since we were waiting on that number, we probably put it on the front of the.
Did take care of his
That way,
questions.
so we
The
can go ahead.
zoning would depend on how they get everything else. Because we got a yes on the other question about
The
contingency.
and the reimbursements, yeah.
So I think his question.
That's a good idea, yeah. And if they need to pull it or what, that's a good idea. Just put it on the consent agenda and pull it if they need to. Right. Not to exceed X. Just fluff it. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to hit on the nail, but I mean, just something that, a range there. That's why we're talking about either dollar amount or percentage amount, you know.
I just don't.
Yeah. We appreciate you doing that. Yeah. Well, I think everybody had a
And we
similar
appreciate
concern
it.
there.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, James.
Okay,
Yes.
and Mr. Boland, I think, yes, sir. And I think we pretty much took care of Mr. Matthews' questions because that's why I wanted to make sure that those were addressed. Yes, I put yes by the 20% contingency savings from the GMP, and then the zoning, you explained that thoroughly. I mean, it's just we're waiting. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, about the fencing and how much, how many doors and all of that. So it seems like, anything else to come?
Madam Chair, we do have some members of our Bond Oversight Committee
Okay,
here, and
all right, if you want to, you can just introduce yourself. We know who we may have appointed, but some of the,
I'm Yvette Jones. I'm a member of the Bond Oversight Committee.
thank you,
and I
Mrs.
appointed
Jones.
a vet.
Thank you.
Porter. And, whoops. Phil Leary appointed me.
Thank you, Mrs. Porter. Okay. All right.
David appointed me, however, he may regret it.
And what's your name, sir?
Robert Hunter. Tom Hunter,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, and thank you so much.
And by the way, can I say one thing about Mr. Hunter? We actually, I went by today, and we have an engineering camp in progress at the CWO office, where we have students. Thanks to Mr. Hunter, we have an engineering camp, and they are building 2 electric vehicles. Thanks to Dr. Hunter. So
And what grade level is this?
these are high school kids, and
Any from University of Florida?
Yes.
yeah, he's from the University of
They'll
Florida.
probably run back.
I was there, and I might drive one up here one day. Hold off. That's all I
All
have.
right, anything else to come before the board? Thank you so much, all of you, for your input. Thank you all
Yes,
so
ma'am.
much. Mr. Attorney, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All righty, this meeting.
Good luck on the-